Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're on episode number 189. Today is March 21st. My name is Craig Perales. Joining me, Mandrew Montemare. And guys, it's good to be back. I hate when we have to skip them, and I'll take the hit on it for sure. But last weekend, when we were going to do it, it just happened to fall under like two of the gnarliest holidays of the year. We do Austin 316 Day, where we do a nice dedication to the man, the myth, the legend, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then following it was St. Patrick's Day, which, I'll just tell you this, Andrew. It really hurt going to work on a Monday. But I bought these for 316, and because this is me and Andrew's favorite beer to have on the show, especially when we used to do beers on the show once upon a time. So I wanted to make sure that I saved a couple, but that was kind of what was happening. Had a great time. Had a wonderful 316, had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. But that was it. You know, hey, we're entitled to a little fun now and then.
It's too late now, but as I was looking at these, I was like, all right, I'll have one. As soon as I took that first drink, I'm like, I should have grabbed two.
Oh, hey, I did bring up another one in the fridge in case you wanted. Hey, right. I know my manager likes to have two. But, so yeah, jumping back, man. Haven't chatted with you in a bit. How was your day before we get going?
Hey, man, it's just getting warmer out here, and I'm just excited because I really just want to hit the water more than I have like ever this year.
Dude, I was roasting like a piglet driving home.
Bro, it started out 70 and then it ended in like the high 80s today, and then it drops back down. So we're in a big fluctuation period. But I'm just ready to like go hit the pool and hit the river. Like, I'm just excited for the summer because lately it's been so windy. It's been shit weather.
Yeah, it's weird because like I think we're in monsoon season. I think someone was telling me that. And it's like some days we'll wake up and it's raining outside or it's cold outside, and then you walk outside and it's blistering hot. But dude, I was at work today. Have you listened to the new Sacred Symbol, new Colin?
Yeah,
dude, I fucking started dying. I was doing some work and training and stuff, and I wanted to ask you this before we get going. One of the questions that the guys wrote in on their show, and I just wanted to bring it up because I was dying laughing. He goes, why are all goth girls either very hot or very ugly?
Yeah, I listened to that one.
Dying, and he's like, "Oh, that's a really good question. I think we need to do more research." He's like, I think the main answer is that they fly too close to the sun, and they're a dying breed. So either you go all in or not, and you got to be careful with how you orbit around that, because either you're gonna be as bright as the star, or you're gonna be the one that crash lands it. Dude, I was dying, but I just thought it was an interesting question. Why is there hot goths or ugly fat goths, but there's like no in between?
I just thought it was funny because I'm like listening to it and I'm like, I don't know what any of you three would even like kind of know about, like, I don't want to say I like culture or whatever, that sort of thing, but that's not like really the kind of stuff that they do. Whereas like the music me and Dante listens to, like scene or like metal music, also rivals like emo, but also fits with goth as like that triangle. Yeah. So you get a lot of crossover between. So I see a lot of those people at shows, and that's why I was kind of dying laughing. I'm like, I don't know what any of you guys would know about anything like that.
I had one example, but it'd be an actress in a show, so I don't know if that counts, right? Because you can dress them up however you want. But there's an episode of Big Bang Theory where where Raj and Howard pretend to be goth, and Howard gets like the banging one, and then there's almost like not that anyone cares. Like, she'd be the definition of like a hard medium.
The chick I always picture in my head when people say like goth specifically is the one from The Water Boy, but in like her other movies, like Craft, like The Craft, or like American History X, where she's like more crazy and psycho.
And she's got a crazy like Polish name or something, so I'm not even gonna pretend.
I always look it up and I forget it because I know it's something weird. But yeah, The Craft is specifically more where she's like that goth, and people always like share goth shit and goth memes, or they even get like a tattoo of like her from that movie all the time. So I feel like she's like that kind of icon in a way.
Definitely, 100%.
She's like crazy as hell kind of looking.
Yeah, crazy sex hot. So she's on the scale of hot goth, right? There's plenty of little piggy goths out there too, I'm sure. So, guys, thank you for joining us on today's episode. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. If you guys are interested in following us on any of our social medias, our Linktree link is in the description. And if you guys are listening to the audio-only version of the podcast, make sure you guys find us on your podcast platform of choice. So, with that healthy beginning out of the way, before Andrew and I dive into our main topics we like to do, what are you up to? We take a second, we talk about what we've been playing, what we've been watching. So, Andrew, what, my friend, have you been doing?
I have not been playing anything since I beat those Immortals and Dead Island. I've just been watching shows or watching stuff here and there and kind of playing Call of Duty. So I just wanted to take like a healthy break before Dragon's Dogma, which actually drops tonight at 8 or tomorrow. I'll probably end up playing it tomorrow. and that was going to be like my big game that I didn't want to start anything else before it and then have to put it down because I'm super, super excited to try this game. I think it looks really good. So as far as watching anything, of course, I've been keeping up with Halo. The last episode is tonight. So maybe we'll do something for that too after you caught up and watched it.
Yeah, I think I just got to do today and then I think the last one.
And then as far as watching anything, I didn't realize I've been watching on HBO Max, but my cousin brought up to my attention that it's also on Netflix. And I don't know how long it's been on there either. But I started watching Band of Brothers, and that's an older show. I think it's like 2001, like World War II show. And it's, I know that they got like a lot of help with the people who did like Saving Private Ryan. So that's exactly what it feels like, except for the first episode. The first episode is them in like their training camp and stuff, but it's following real tales of like paratroopers, specifically Sergeant Winter or Lieutenant Winters, whatever rank he ends up being. I forget his first name, but he goes by Winters, and like his exploits throughout the war. And so just watching the other episodes, them like dropping out of the sky and taking over towns and traveling like all over where, Europe, it's just crazy. It's like watching like a really long Saving Private Ryan, and I love Saving Private Ryan.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I really love like World War II stuff especially, but I really like watching a lot of like war stuff, especially where they try to make it like accurate and realistic. So it's really, really good show to watch if any of you are interested in something like that.
Nice. As far as what I've been watching, I watched Blackberry, which is on Hulu, I believe, if you guys want to check it out. It came out on May 12th, 2023. I've been wanting to watch it forever. It says it went out into the box office, but I don't think it ever came here. And
I know it wasn't everywhere.
Yeah, because I was finally waiting for it to come to a streaming service, and I saw it on there the other day. And this is the story about how like BlackBerry came to be, and it says explores the incredible growth and tragic collapse of the world's first smartphone and how it smashed huge enterprises before surrendering to Silicon Valley's fiercely competitive companies, essentially Apple. And its two big stars are Jay Baruchel, I always forgot to say his name, and he's Rochelle. He's from the end of the world, and he's from like Fanboys. He's a decent actor. Goon, and then Glenn Howerton, which is Dennis from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This movie, if you were to compare it to something, is like a fictionalized, realization of like kind of how Tetris was, right? It's not 100% accurate, but it kind of tells this story. So that's what I would consider Blackberry. I'd give it like a solid B+. I would say Tetris, if you're looking at movies like that, is a better movie, but it's really good. If you're interested in it, you should definitely check it out. It's crazy because you see how BlackBerry kind of blew up, like the happenstance meeting of when they met this one guy who kind of turns out to be someone that can help them. And then you realize that BlackBerry once upon a time had like 45% of like the market.
Did you have one?
What?
Did you have one?
I don't. I think my first cell phone was a Nokia. And I think my first I didn't jump into a smartphone until like, I think maybe like an Apple later in the game. So
I had a BlackBerry.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice. So it was really kind of cool to see the transformation because now they're in 0% of the market, but I do believe they're in like some type of cyber security for tech and things like that. But the guy that Dennis, and he'll always be Dennis to me, Jim Balsillie, who was the co-CEO, Glenn Howerton, he never met him, so his portrayal of him was only based on what people told him and what he read about, because he's kind of this loud, controls the room kind of guy, cocky, but the Jim Balsillie, the real life guy, said that he was kind of nervous to see how he'd be portrayed, and he's like, and he says he's never watched a movie twice except for this one because he loved Glenn Howerton's performance of him. So if you were interested in watching it, it's now on Hulu, and it was really, really good. As far as what I've been playing, I'm slow far behind on Final Fantasy VII. That I kind of just needed to pick me up. So A A Tale of Two Sons remake, which is based on the original game that came out in 2013, which was developed by Starbreeze Studios and published by 505 Games, is the new edition that just recently came out on February 28th, 2024, but developed by a studio called Avant Garden. And A Tale of Two Sons remake is an enhanced version of the action-adventure online co-op game developed by Advent Games. Players will once again guide brothers on a quest filled with discovery, loss, adventure, and mystery, enhanced from graphical and gameplay perspective. I believe the original one was on Unreal Engine 3. The new one is on Unreal Engine 5, and it's just as good as I remember it. It's one of these things where I'm like, great games do not have to be 20 hours, 40 hours, 80 hours. This is a 3-hour game, if that, and it's fantastic. The story is that they're their mother. It's about an older brother and a younger brother. Their mother's dead, and you can kind of tell that like the younger son was closer with the mother, and the older son's closer kind of with the father. And the father gets ill, and their whole quest is to go find this cure for their father that takes you through these all kinds of crazy lands where there's like ogres that exist. There's like they get trapped by these wolves or spirits and all this kind of stuff. It's a twin stick game, which is interesting because you can't play it by yourself and you just control each brother. With
I didn't know it was co-op. That's how I played the original.
Yeah, and then you can also play it with co-op. You can play it with two people. So it does get a little confusing sometimes when you're playing with both of them on two sticks trying to guide it. But it's an awesome game. It deals, I mean, as it said before, but it deals with like love, death, and suicide. There's a part where there's some suicide, and at the end, just kind of growing up and what these two brothers had to go through. So I highly recommend it for anyone to play. And if Andrew always puts Resident Evil remakes on his top games at the end of the year, depending on what comes out, I might be inclined to put this game on it because from a perspective, it's just a powerful story. There's not a lot of boss fighting. There's got some slight puzzle solving. It's more just kind of working in tandem with each other, kind of like the games A Way Out and It Takes Two. So think of it kind of like that, but kind of like the original version of those games. And it's awesome. So if you get a chance to check it out, make sure you do. It's got a pretty easy 1,000. Maka made a new guide because he made one from 2013. He made a new one, so it's simple to follow along just so you don't miss them. That's what I did. But that is what I'm playing, guys. So, and hopefully I can jump back on the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth train soon. So, well, with that done, guys, let us know what you've been playing. Let us know what you've been watching. So, with that said, we're going to move into our main stories, which this week is pretty PlayStation-centric. And we're going to lead with that there's been a lot of PS5 Pro leaks that have been happening over the last couple days that we decided to take a peek at. Now, normally, Andrew and I, we don't talk tech. We don't really analyze, stats and statistics and things like that. We leave those to smarter fellows. But I think it is kind of interesting that this is the rumors are kind of being solidified, and especially knowing that after the last Xbox showcase, they announced that their 1.5 or 2.0 is eventually coming out. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of look at this and kind of compare and see what this PS5 Pro has going on. So I'll start with this, and it says, the PS5 Pro is a rumored console that is expected to be released in November of 2024. Now that date, I've been reading from a few different sites that some say September, some say the end of 2024, Christmas 2024.
Yeah, I did see Tom Warren and them, I think, had it as like September 2024. So either way, second half of 2024 for sure.
And, but it all points to, because a lot of early rumors were saying early 2025, but it seems everyone's pointing now at 2024. The PS5 Pro is expected to replace the current gen PS5 and is speculated to launch at the same price of $499. However, some speculate that the PS5 Pro could be priced at around $550 or $599. So before we dive into the specs and see if it's worth that price, is it weird that a new one would come out, and what makes more sense to you? That a new one would come out cheaper, same price, or more expensive? Out of all the options, like how normally would that play?
I don't know. I feel like maybe if it was more expensive, but it can't be too much more expensive. And I think that's the weirder part about it is because what it could do, like, is it really going to enhance anything? How many people have, cause that's like the big thing is, it's stronger for like 8K. How many people have an 8K TV?
Yeah. So
now you're going to spend this money on this console that does what for you, whereas the PS5 Pro, at least most people have a 4K TV.
Yeah, well, my thing too is PS5 has sold really, really well. So if you were waiting for the next PS5 for a price decrease, I mean, obviously the PS5 will probably go down in price, but it's like you're not jumping on board with this one. So are these specs going to be worth paying the same price, if not more, for something that you've already been waiting almost, 4 years now for it?
Right. That was my big thing. It's like, okay, so if this thing comes out, the other one has to drop by price at least a little bit. Now, that middle one, the PS5, is going to be what most, like I was saying, that's what most people's TVs and setups are able to do, is what the PS5 can do. So who's going to buy the Pro? Is that something that's going to fly off the shelves? I mean, I know that's something we would always end up getting, but that's because we're kind of, we do a channel. So that is why we rush to get this thing so we can relate it back to you.
So I just want to point this out. This comes from IGN. They kind of highlight what the big things are going to be. And it says, The headline improvements here are to the CPU, which is said to be identical to the standard PS5 CPU, but with a high CPU frequency mode, whatever that's supposed to mean, which amounts to a 10% increase to a 3.85 gigahertz, and the GPU. So that's why I'm just curious, like if it's the same identical thing, then and it has this, then how is it identical? It's already not identical, which enables faster rendering and higher quality ray tracing powered by 33.5 teraflops. The standard PS5 offers 10.28 teraflops. However, a direct PS5 to PS5 Pro comparison would work out at around 10.25 versus 16 to 17 teraflops. And one other thing I just want to make sure you're aware of is of particular interest, the PS5 Pro is said to have an upscaling and anti-aliasing solution called PSSR.
Oh, anti-aliasing.
Anti-aliasing. Oh yeah, that one looked funny to me. So PSSR, which is PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling, custom machine learning architecture, and an AI accelerator. Elsewhere, PS5 Pro has a detachable disk drive at 1 terabyte of storage space. Because the other thing I was looking at, which is what pretty much everybody wants when they're looking at a new system, is the PS5. Because it already has a bunch of stuff on it, so it comes preloaded, has a 448 gigabytes that's offered to you, where the PS5 Pro is looking at 576, regardless of the specs. Because to a lot, like Andrew's saying, there's certain TVs that aren't even going to be able to run it. Most people can't even tell the difference. Like, graphics don't really go it for everybody. So all that is one thing. What everybody wants is storage space.
Right.
What I would have paid money for, at the same price, if not more, was to double it. Give me 1,000 terabytes. Yeah, so not only are you have to buying this separately to add on, because it's an attachable thing that doesn't come with it. It sounds cool, and if you're a tech head, then sure, maybe that is what you're leaning towards, that's what you want. But as the standard gamer who has games on games that I don't want to delete, I would have thought the first thing they would have done is double the memory. Or what do you think? Does what it was saying sound more appealing to you?
Yeah, no, I agree too. Like when especially if you're gonna have something like that, usually games with that kind of fidelity and stuff like that, anything that does hit that mark is a big game. Not to mention how big games are now as it is. So
huge, dude.
I would rather. I don't understand why a terabyte, if not like 2 terabyte, is like the default for like a launch console, especially for something like that that's supposed to boister like for 8K 120 frames or whatever. Because that stuff, those are all hype words. Like I really kind of don't believe any of that because it's all by a case by case basis. Because it's the same thing with this generation. This generation is supposed to be 4K 60 FPS nonstop. And it's not so much the console's fault, but I mean, even tomorrow, Dragon's Dogma, I don't know so much that it can hit 4K, but that game is at 30 frames per second, and that's not even capped.
Have you looked at what the gig space is on it?
For the download? No, I should have. I just
because I'd imagine that game's at least 50.
Final Fantasy was on 2 discs.
Yeah, 7's huge. So I just wanted to read a couple stats of just kind of pointing out what some of this is going to do. So the increase in memory is a 28% increase over the standard console. The high CPU frequency mode, which takes the CPU to 3.85 gigahertz, is a 10% increase over the standard console. Its audio runs at a higher clock speed over the standard PS5, resulting in the ACM library having 35% more performance. And I'll put the link in the description if you guys kind of want to go step by step of what it has. Rendering 45% faster than the PS5, 2 to 3 times ray tracing, 4 times in some cases. It's got a lot of stuff on it, but is it enough to buy a new PS5? Like it's easy for someone like me to go trade mine in for some credit and put 300 something to it, but again, I don't know who didn't already have a PS5 that would want to buy one for $100 more just to have a couple things run faster. And I'm not saying it's not a solid machine. If I didn't own one, this would be the time to get in. But as someone who has one, I can't see anybody trading it in to get it per se. But I mean, you're looking at it as someone who doesn't have a PS5. Does any of this jump at you more than the original one did 4 years ago?
No, if anything, I would just buy the lesser one because I wouldn't even have
for
a TV.
Cheaper cost, right?
Yeah, I don't even have a TV, like TVs that can run this sort of stuff. I don't even have a TV that does 4K 120 yet. Mine just does 4K 60.
That's funny. So I don't know. What do you think about it? Is this a smart time to be doing this? Because it fits in with what they've done before. I believe. What happened?
Oh, no, I was going to say, go and finish. I didn't know you were going to end the question.
No, because I know they... I think 4 years was on par for like the PS4 when it had a PS4 Pro. So I think the timing evens out to about when they introduce one. But I think it's smart that I think maybe they're going before Xboxes, because like I was saying earlier, when Xbox had their announcement, and I don't know if they officially said it was going to be the 1.5 version or a full-on next-gen system, is that theirs is going to be such a huge advancement, you will notice a difference very easily. And I don't know how true that could be, but I don't know if, does this fall behind it too much?
That is my big question that I actually wrote down and I was point to you. Like, that's my biggest thing when I heard this, is obviously this thing is coming out. Like, there's something there. This stuff is solidified from too many sources. So, from what's been said and what's been shown, and again, from multiple sources, it's not like it's a huge leap. It can do more, which is great, and that's fine. And again, it's talked about as the PS5 Pro. PS5 Pro from multiple places as an upgrade. It is not called the PS6 or the next generation or whatever. Versus when Xbox was talking about theirs, I never took it as it's the Xbox Series X Pro or something like that. The way they made it sound is like this is what we do is going to be the next generation of gaming. And for someone who's losing this generation of gaming, why wouldn't you want to start the next generation on your terms and your time? So if they come out with this and then Xbox comes out swinging with that and it really is better and does make that big a difference, then that would really put them in a deficit, because now you have to ride this PS5 Pro out. You can't just have it out and be like, okay, we're only going to support it for a year and then now we're going to launch the PS6 or something like that.
Yeah, and it's and that's the other thing too is Sony's doing this because what they're always trying to do is get the schematics of the box and the hardware and everything down, right? And that's what they're doing. Because I don't know if the picture showed it, but you do there's kind of like a mock drawing of like how small it's going to be compared to it, because the PS5 takes up a lot of real estate on your shelf.
The thing's huge.
It's huge, and the next one does look a little slimmer, but it's like they have no need to make a next gen system. Like, they're already winning. They already have games slated to come out that are going to be blockbusters. It's like. And every game they've made so far still looks fantastic on the PS5. There's no reason to really jump, but it's going to be really interesting to see when, because I'm sure we'll cover it, is when Xbox does theirs and what the big difference is going to be. Because then we can side-by-side compare them and go, okay, PS5 Pro did this, well, here's what Xbox did. And if any of it's weaker than the Pro, then they're going to be in some trouble too, because it's like they didn't...
It can go either way,
yeah. They didn't say what they're going to be enhancing, but they said it will be genre-defining. So it's just going to be... It's on you to tell me what that's going to be then, Microsoft, because Sony is just making a better system and they don't need that. They don't need. I don't want to call it a gimmick per se, but it's like they don't need to do anything more to just give you a better box.
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing, is once we see whatever the Xbox is that it's doing, because then, yeah, if it is worse, then that looks bad on them, and if it is better, that puts Sony in the behind position to where they, not console sales-wise, but then you're going to start hearing these articles of, oh, the Xbox can do this, the PlayStation can't. The Xbox can do this, but the same way the Xbox had to endure it during the One cycle.
Yeah, and I think that when I was reading, right, they did have they finally, for the first time, started having a dip in their annual sales of the PS5, which is going to happen eventually, right? Yeah. You can't keep selling more and more, because eventually everyone's going to have it, so you are going to decline. But it's just, that just still tells me. So everyone has a PS5? No, who was waiting for this one? But, I mean, again, no knock against it. It's just, if you're going to make something that people are going to buy, bite the bullet and make it up for it on the software, you should have made $100 cheaper, because then everyone that had a PS5 would have bought the new one. So I'm not sure of the strategy, but hey, Sony, and they know what they're doing. So anything else on that?
I was saying, unless you just discontinue the PS5 altogether and the Pro just becomes that baseline model.
Oh, look at you thinking outside the box. So with that being said, guys, let us know down below what you think of the PS5 Pro and your thoughts on it, and if you plan on getting one. So moving right along, our next topic is, again, Sony related, and it's saying that Sony is reportedly pausing the PSVR2 production to clear excess inventory. Sales of the $550 headset are reportedly slowing due to a lack of games, allowing inventory to pile up. Now, I necessarily wouldn't say that that's the only reason, and we can dive into that in a second, but this comes to us from The Verge, and I'll just kind of catch you guys up. Because Andrew and I, this is one of the biggest things too, which is, like, we don't talk about tech, and we don't normally dive into VR, but if we're going to do an episode about it, we might as well put them both together. So, The Verge says, after producing in excess of 2 million units of its latest virtual reality headset, Bloomberg is reporting that Sony is hitting pause on the production to try and shift its unsold inventory. The PlayStation VR2 launched last February for $549 as an accessory, remember that, for the PlayStation 5, but IDC data suggests that shipments have declined each quarter since. Bloomberg suggests that the problem is a lack of content for the headset. The PSVR2 is compatible with a handful of AAA games, including Horizon, Call of the Mountain, Gran Turismo 7, and entries in the Resident Evil series, as well as a range of smaller titles. But at $549, the headset costs more than the PS5 itself, so expectations are high. Bloomberg notes that Meta and Apple have faced similar content challenges with their own headsets. As well as pausing production on the headset, Sony's recent layoffs impacted teams that have worked on VR titles. It closed its London studio, and developer behind Horizon, Call of the Mountain, Firesprite Studio, was also impacted. In total, the layoffs are expected to affect around 900 Sony employees, or 8% of its overall headcount. So yeah, that's a lot to kind of take in, but the bottom line is that there's no one out there buying this thing, and there's no point to make more of something that not a lot of people are getting. So what they point at is that they think there's a lack of games out there, and yeah, that's definitely true, because they have some good VR games, but I'd argue they have more games that no one cares about, right? Because Resident Evil, all the Resident Evil VRs, from what I can tell, are awesome games.
Those would be the big
awesome
ones,
game.
yeah.
Star Wars is an awesome game, but when you don't have the content to sell it, then because VR isn't where we want it to be, and I think that's the biggest thing. I think people thought VR was going to explode overnight, be a really cool kind of concept, and it still like gets people sick when they're on it. The fact that an attachment to the PS5 is more than the PS5 itself, the pricing for these things is bad. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I had it pulled up, is that the Oculus, Amazon, not Amazon's, Apple's and what was the other? It was Apple and who? I forget who it was. Anyway, like Facebook, whoever makes the Meta Quest 3, that's at $633. So like,
the Meta Quest?
The Meta Quest, yeah. So that's even more than that. So they have a lot of hurdles to climb, and it's just too many for this right now. So my biggest thing that I was taking away is like, at least they're not saying that they're stopping production altogether. Because one of the things that has to happen, even though VR is not where we want it, when these things are in existence, at least you're pushing the technology forward, and it's better to have two companies at least, better than one doing it. So it's got to get slow to get to where VR wants to be, but I'm just glad to hear that PlayStation and Sony weren't stopping it all together and getting out of the VR headset. I like that they're just going, hey, let's push pause, but I don't know how you're going to make more content when one of the best games you're saying, Call of the Wild, you just closed the studio, or you fucked it up pretty good. So I don't know. You're hearing it. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, that was my big thing too. Is like, yeah, you don't have the content. The content that is there, it's not like it's flying off the shelves. And when you announce news like that, or when news like this comes out, how does that bode well for other people? Well, okay, if they're doing that, why are we going to develop for this system now? At what point do you pay people like, even if this doesn't sell well, we're gonna pay Square Enix to make a Final Fantasy virtual reality game or whatever at whatever costs us just to support this, even if we're not going to recoup anything, just to show we're supporting the VR. So now you're just trying to get water out of a boat it's still there's more coming in. So that's what it reminds me of. It's like, okay, like I'm trying to think about it almost like Sea of Thieves, where you're just like one of those animations where you're like, you have this huge hole and your dude's just trying to put water out with a bucket, but the water's still gushing in. So it's like there's nothing you can really do to fix this. I think it's kind of like an unfixable situation, and I'm just glad that Microsoft didn't follow suit and it be this big thing. Well, now we have all these out there, except for I think they would be poised to in a better position, because if they made theirs, I don't think that it would just work for Xbox. It would work with PC as well. So there's a much wider market for that than there is with just, hey, this thing only works with PlayStation and whatever PlayStation deems to be like necessary.
Yeah, because you would definitely assume that they would want like a Game Pass VR or something like that, and you'd want to put it on Xbox and PC so you can get it on both markets. But just to put it in context of how much like these games sell and who's not buying them is like, and it's not, I don't want to use Game of the Year, but it's one of the best games. Elden Ring. Elden Ring sold 23 million copies, right? The best-selling game. Because Gorilla Tag VR is a player-based thing, but Beat Saber, everyone's heard of it. You've all seen the Star Wars looking game where you're hitting the beats. That's their best-selling game, and it's only sold like 4 million copies.
Over how long too?
Right. So it's just like, it just goes to show that that audience just isn't there, but that yet. You know what I mean? That's not to say it won't grow, but I think it's a smart idea for them to keep hit the pause button and let like consumer infatuation with it get better and cut the price of this thing. If you're sitting on excess stock, you know how you sell it? you cut the price in half.
That was the big thing too. It's such a steep buy-in because again, not only do you have to buy it, you got to buy the console with it. So you're spending close to, if not, well, with taxes, you're spending over $1,000. And for what, to play Beat Saber?
Yeah, then you have to go outside. You have to get yourself a Genesis.
And that again, that now that you said something like that, that is why they can't just. I'm sure they would love nothing more than just be like, you know what, this ain't working, and now is just not the time for it. The world's not ready for it. Let's just cut this thing. But they can't, because then it's going to look like a Sega move.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing is, okay, I'm glad you dove into VR, but it's like, I wish you would have stayed with handhelds. I mean, the Vita and the PSPs. I mean, even though they weren't gangbusters like anything Nintendo did, they had their audience. There were people that were buying those handhelds for those games. So it's like, I didn't see audiences clamoring for VR. I mean, I'm glad that you got into the space and you're kind of tinkering with it, but it's like, are you happy now? Like that you stopped something that everyone loved to do something that, I'm not saying no one loves it, but no one's clearly not buying it.
I feel like the Vita wasn't loved until like retroactively, like after it was on its deathbed.
Yeah, once you take away the candy, you want the candy.
And then that's when everyone was like, "Oh man, the Vita was the best thing to happen to us since fucking the DS or something."
Nice. So I don't know. That's pretty much all there is with that right now. I don't know if there's too much more to say. Is there anything else you want to mention?
No, I just cut your loss. I personally would not buy one.
Yeah, unless it was $200. Me either.
I mean, what would be a good price for you to buy that?
$200. I have.
And does it come with a game?
I have a VR headset. I don't think it would have to. It'd be cool. It'd be cool if it gave you, let's say, games are $60. When you bought it, it comes with a $30 credit towards any game you want.
Or you have is there any VR games on that PS? Thing or anything?
I don't think I ever even opened it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say because every time they talk about it, I hear you have like The Last of Us and whatever, all these other big titles. I don't ever hear anything about there being like a VR thing on there.
Yeah, so
that would be something, not that would draw people in, but for the people who have it, at least throw them a bone.
Throw me a freaking bone here, Scott. So with that down out of the way, guys, leave us down your thoughts about PSVR and what you plan on doing with it.
If you have one, let me know if you love it.
So with that down, guys, let's move into questions of the week. Now, if you guys want to submit a question that Andrew and I can answer on the air, you can do so a couple of different ways. You can email us at lastcallproductions@gmail.com. You can leave a question down in the YouTube comment section, and we can grab it there, or you can find me on social media at Craig Perales, and I can take it there. So with that down, guys, the first question comes from Stephen Taylor, and they write, did you guys see all the controversy with Xmen 97? I was reading a bunch of craziness with the creator, but the show is fantastic. Any insight? Now, I don't think you're starting it tonight?
Yeah, I'm probably going to start tonight. I have not watched it yet. I've only
seen heard the controversy, though, right?
Yeah, I've heard the controversy. I've seen the intro where they show, like, side by side, which was pretty cool. At least they kept the music. And I don't think we're talking about them removing Rogue's fat ass.
But that fucking honey ham.
Because there are some people who are going crazy for that, and I'm like, I could care less. But it's just because it was like a meme, and it's a dude crying or something like that, and it says never forget what they took from us, and it's like a side by side of like her butt.
That's priceless. So you got to send me that. So that's funny. So yeah, let's start with the controversy, and then we'll kind of get into it because I have seen Xmen 97, just to catch you guys up, is getting phenomenal reviews. It's about a band of mutants use their uncanny gifts to protect a world that hates and fears them. They're challenged like never before to face a dangerous and unexpected new future. Now, this aired on March 20th, 2024. It started which was just yesterday, with 2 episodes, and episodes will air every Wednesday. So, and then clearly that's going to be on Disney Plus's streaming service. Now, the name 97 is because I believe the old X-Men series from the 90s, that ended in like 92, 93 or something like that. So X-Men 97 is a continuation of where they would have been within that 5 years and what they're up to now. So it kept the same style, that Jim Lee style of X-Men, the same tone. And we'll get into what it's good about it. But
voice actors, a lot of them are the same too, aren't they?
Yeah, which was really, really cool. So let's start with the controversy. So one of the biggest things is that the X-Men 97 creator, Bo DeMaio, was fired by Marvel. Now, as far as I know, a lot of this is still kind of hearsay. I don't think anything's been pinpointed on why he's been officially fired. I mean, there could be, that maybe I missed it today, but as of from now, and which is really because he got fired like 2 days before it came out on the 20th. He got fired like the week before that, and he already wrote season 2. So this guy clearly, and when he got fired, all the screen tests were saying, because I think when they screen tested it, people could see it the first 4 episodes.
And they're saying amazing.
And everyone's saying this is amazing. So why are you going to fire this guy that's putting one of the, you know, the best shows out on a network that puts out, or a streaming service that puts out a lot of shitty TV, in my opinion. So one of the things that were being said is that apparently this guy was an absolute nightmare to deal with on a daily basis. And this came from Snyder, who I believe is one of the other creators of the show. So clearly he's not fun to work with, but that doesn't mean you fire somebody. One of the biggest things that are coming out is that apparently he had an OnlyFans account. Now, is there anything illegal about owning one? No. Do you raise questions or eyebrows every time you hear OnlyFans because we all kind of jump to what we think we know people use it for? Sure. But you can do a ton of other things on OnlyFans, and that's not to say he was doing anything. I mean, you could be a subscriber, but then the controversy gets into, well, Disney is a family-friendly brand, and we can't be associated with somebody that's looked on a lesser platform, which I would just raise the question going, I don't think anyone would have known unless you made an article about this. Like, I didn't even know who the creator was, right, before that. I didn't know he had an OnlyFans until you ran the article of why you fired him, if that's why you fired him. So, again, I think it's still just accusations at this point, but does any of that seem fair to you that this dude gets fired for, sure, if you're a dickhead to work with, that's not illegal, and then having an OnlyFans and you work at Disney, you can't tell me that everyone at Disney, none of them have an OnlyFans account. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, because you can. I don't know who it is.
I'm sure Bob Iger's rocking one.
There's like I can't think of like what musician is, but there's like a few big people out there who have used like OnlyFans just for like you can subscribe to their music and get like demos.
Exactly. There's tons of other stuff like you can do it with it.
Some people do it specifically just for their art. I've seen like too like what's popular within like the cosplay industry. They don't do like naked stuff or anything like that, but people who do cosplay, that's like a good way for like, okay, I'll post one shot on my Instagram, but if you want to see everything I have to do, whatever, that could be on there too. So I mean, there's all kinds of different things you can do with it, but even still, it's not like it's an open forum. It's not like it's a Pornhub account where he's doing whatever on there that anybody could. You could, any kid with a phone could look at Pornhub, whatever, and like just go straight to like a website. Versus OnlyFans, you have to create an account and be of a certain age and put in like credit cards, and there's a lot of barriers you have to get through before you can even see content that's there. So it's not like it's just Google and there's whatever.
And who's looking him up? Like, how do you find out? Now if he's doing weird shit and swinging his ding dong around for people to look at OnlyFans, I guess I could see Disney going, well, we can't have a creator.
Who cares?
Being looked at. But again, though, it's his right to do it, and maybe it'd be one thing if they go, you know, they give him an option to be like, hey, you know, if you want to keep working, because after this, I believe his Instagram, like all of his social media got shut down. You couldn't, like, there was his email, all kinds of shit with him went dark. So it's like, maybe give that guy an option, because you're telling me that everyone loves this season, and he already penned number 2. Yeah. Why are you getting rid of this guy for something that's not illegal, but goes against your family-friendly brand when you're now just going to put out Deadpool, which is a rated R? Doesn't that go against your family-friendly brand? So it's like you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Not to mention you have like Daredevil and Punisher and stuff like that on the way, plus the old episodes that are on there that are also
very brutal.
Whatever. So it's like it's in its own walled garden. So it's not like it's just a thing that's out there. So that's why I think that it's a bigger issue than it should be, because you have to do a lot to get to it versus I'm not just Googling his name and Pornhub.com right there, his account for free. Let me go see what's happening.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. So anyway, I think that was one of the big first controversies. The other controversy has to do with Morph. Now, I'll read this real quick and then we can dive into it. The Xmen 97 show has faced controversy over the inclusion of Morph, a non-binary character. Some fans have criticized the show for being woke and for using Morph to promote character diversity. The show's creators have mentioned their frustration about the controversy and cited the original show's lessons of inclusion. Now, for those of you who don't know, Morph was actually an X-Men created by this show. He was never in a comic book. It's like Harley Quinn. He was made for the TV show. Right. So Morph, if you don't know, has an ability to shapeshift. Right? Now, in the older one, he always defaulted to a human with dark hair, a mailman, and with dark hair, and you would assume, watching it back in the 90s, that he was a guy that could shapeshift. Now he takes on his newer look, which is kind of like a white xenomorph kind of alien-looking dude, and but one of the characters are
androgynous.
Yeah. But what the creators are saying, they're saying he was always been binary. The definition of not binary is he can switch. His power alone makes him non-binary, right? It's one thing to say, because I don't know, but, and that's what you could argue. Okay, but mutants, you know, usually their power, I mean, some of them I guess could be born with it, right? You're out the gate with it, but usually it triggers at a certain age. The X gene kicks in and your power triggers. So was he born a man that then could learn to shapeshift, or was he born and could constantly go back and forth? Because I'd argue that would be a case to now say, oh no, he's always been, versus he didn't get his power till later. So I don't know about that. But the other thing I will say is in the first 2 episodes, I don't think they even say non-binary in any of the episodes. I mean, this is the creator saying, yeah, we've made more from non-binary, but it's like they don't push that agenda in the episode, at least not from what I've seen yet. So it's more people just going, oh, why are you retconning it now? Like when J.K. Rowling's, you know, not retcon, but later said, oh, Dumbledore's always been gay. It's like the fans are mad that you're putting this in it now when it was never mentioned before. But I don't know. I don't see it as a big deal. Once you realize that he can have both parts at any time he wants to, or no part, for I'd imagine. Do you think this is just dumb bigotry, or do you think they are being woke for woke's sake?
No, that's people just crying because he is someone who can shapeshift and do whatever. So I would feel like non-binary is a definition for something like that. Almost like, I guess, maybe like Mystique, even though Mystique has like children and stuff like that, she could still, as how many times has portrayed a man or something like that. Yeah. So I tend to think of those people as like having, no, maybe some of them have a preferred gender. Mystique prefers to be a woman and usually shows up as a woman.
Yeah, usually
whereas back then, you know, he was always a man, but now in today's society, with how things are,
what you can say now.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah, like they're not binary,
and it makes sense for somebody too who can shapeshift that maybe would have just a default like, I'm just almost like nothing. Yeah. Like I'm not leaning one way or the other. I'm just completely androgynous. I'm just.
Yes, and that's the other thing too, is they use more in these first 2 episodes than I remember him at all in the original one, because he's constantly shifting between different X-Men. Like he's turning into Colossus, and then he's turning into the Blob, and he's turning into Jean Grey. So getting past the controversy of it, the show is fantastic from what I've seen in 2 episodes. It could fall apart, but from everything I'm hearing, that is highly unlikely. The style that, like I said, that old Jim Lee Dark Shadow,
beautiful art,
is art that's just top shelf. And Tim and I were having a conversation too, where it's just like, why, he's like, I've seen 2 episodes, like, why is this a adaptation of an old show from the 90s, better looking than anything else that's out there? And I couldn't agree more. I'm like, because I even said that when I was watching it with them, I'm like, if they can still make cartoons like this, then why don't they still make cartoons like this? Because, like Andrew was saying, the voice actors come back, and a lot of them sound spot on.
Is Rogue still something?
Yeah, Rogue's one of the ones I think a lot of people are having an issue with, because it's the same actress, but she's 60 now. So when you hear her, or close, she's old. And so when you hear her trying to sound young, it just comes off the wrong way for people.
Is she still Southern though?
Yeah, but not as hard. Oh. Like, not as hard Southern as that one. Like,
hey, sugar!
There's parts where it hits, and you'll hear what I mean when you watch it. But it just kind of sounds like a lighter version. The fighting in this, the action in this that they have blows the old one out of the water, because obviously you can do more now. And like, you get big redemptions with Cyclops, who's always been one of my favorite. Cyclops, Bishop, and Cable have always been some of my favorite X-Men, because I love the Age of Apocalypse stuff and the tie-in. And when you watch Cyclops fight now, I believe he gets a redemption, because they kind of always underutilize them with a couple beams. But when you watch it, you'd be like, dude, he's dope. And the biggest redemption is Storm. Like, they literally present her as an Omega threat level mutant. And when you watch her fight, it's awesome. So, and they're getting into some storylines from the comics, and I won't say much more because I don't want to spoil anything, but it has to do with Magneto. So, and I know
Onslaught.
And I know you mentioned Magneto in the last episode or 2, that he's one of your favorite villains. Like, the way they're doing Magneto is so awesome, and I can't overuse the word enough, where it's like he's coming back to redeem himself, and Charles Xavier's last wish was like, be a better man and all this. And dude, there's a point where he goes, like, they take it right out of the comics. I think it's comic like 200, where Magneto goes on trial for his crimes, and they're pulling that storyline with a couple others. It's fantastic. If you guys are a fan of X-Men, a fan of cartoon, I was talking to TK, which kind of blew my mind. He said it sucked. And I'm like, dude, there's no fucking way you like Xmen and you thought these 2 episodes sucked.
I wonder if he's like one of those people. The only thing I did see too that some people were complaining about, like, dude, this show's corny. Scott would never say that. Where I think someone's telling him to like freeze or don't move or something. He's like, sure, nah, and then he blasts him with the beam. And what's funny is like one of the writer, he's like, Scott would never say this is just terrible writing in the show, blah 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 blah. No, they're like, oh, I wonder where we got this idea, and it's literally almost like scene for scene the thing from like the original X-Men cartoon. He does the same thing. Someone tells him to give up, and he's like, sure, not, and then fucking blasts him with the
so what happens is his thing gets knocked off. And he's like, oh, my kids. And he's like, don't worry. He's like, give up. He's like, don't worry. Like, I surrender. Like, I'll cry to him. Like, no way. And he goes, nah. And he does this blast. It just wrecks this room. I'm like, dude, that's my Cyclops.
And it's the same thing in the 90s cartoon. He does the exact same thing in like another part. So it was like meant to be a throwback. Yeah. But he does the same thing. And that was the funniest thing. Is like, I wonder where we got this from. And it's from the original one.
Yeah. And I got to say that there's one part too where there's Gambit and they're playing basketball and he's wearing like this. He looks like he's something from like the 70s or like an 80s rock band. He's got like a half shirt on, like black like tight pants, and he's like a headband. And this person in an X-Men group I'm on Facebook, he's like regardless of your orientation, everybody loved this Gambit. I was like, dude, there's no denying that. So it's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to next Wednesday. It's like it's one of those things now where because summer's gonna hit big. You got House of the Dragon coming, Fallout's coming. It's like right now I have an appointment show again, right? I know what I'm doing on my Wednesdays. I know I'm going to watch my new episode. I kind of want to do it like a Denny where he likes to let it all build and then crush them because I don't think there's more than 8 to 10 episodes. That's usually what I do. But like it's so good that like, because I want to talk to Tim about it. I want to talk to Geno about it. So like I want to be at the water cooler, chat about this show day by day and not get something spoiled because already at the end of that first episode, something's going to happen and you're like, well shit, I don't want that to be spoiled. So I'd argue keep up with it, unless that doesn't matter to you. So, all right, that one went long, but dude, X-Men 97, I can't gush about that enough. So, thank you for the question, and leave you guys' answers down below. The second question comes from simply anonymous, and feel free to not tell us your name if you don't want to. And it says, I know you guys think Star Wars has been in a slump. What did you guys think of the Acolyte trailer? See, like even they said Acolyte. I thought it was Star Wars Acolyte, but Andrew pointed out to me it's just called the Acolyte. Yeah. So if you guys aren't familiar. New Star Wars centric show about the rise or somebody rising up in the dark side. The cover is a red lightsaber, blood all over it. We watched the trailer again right before we started this. What are your first thoughts on that? Because I ran out on X-Men. What are your thoughts on Star Wars?
It takes place at the end of High Republic.
Actually, hold on. I do have exactly. So I'll point this out just so we can put it where it's at. The Acolyte is set at the end of the Star Wars franchise's High Republic era, approximately 100 years before the Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Because I thought originally it was only like 30, 50, and I'm like, get out of this. But a century's not bad.
Yeah, no.
So that's usually Andrew and I's biggest problem. It's like, move on or move backwards.
No, I'm excited about it. I really like the trailer. I thought it looked good. I don't know why some people are having problems with it. I thought it looked very interesting. I really like the cast. I like a lot of the designs and the choices that they've made. It looks like very... I don't want to say diversified just in like culture, but then even when there's like the Padawans, there's this weird like little beast thing that almost kind of looks like a little like walrus or something like that kind of. So you're just seeing all these different things. I thought it looked really good. And again, I'm just so excited to get out of this era of the Skywalker era. I just hope that I guarantee you the end of the show, it's going to be like, something's going to happen and say, oh, well, my name's something Sidious. Nice to meet you. Or my name's something Palpatine. Nice to meet you. And I'm like, oh, here we are again. So as long as I stay away from any of that, I'm good. So far, I'm super hopeful for it. I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, so the trailer, I did think it looked pretty good. It's essentially, the long story short is it's following a Jedi investigation in a series of crimes. Because when you hear in the trailer is that he's like Jedi. Someone's destroying Jedi, and you can see that it's.
I hope it does play out kind of like a detective show. That'd be really cool.
I would love that. And what it looked like in the beginning, because there's these little kids, and he's like, "What do you see?" And she's like, "Life, hope." And this little kid says, "Fire." So I'm assuming that's who the black chick in the gear that's fighting Carrie-Anne Moss. I believe that's who she's supposed to be, like a fallen Jedi. And if that is her name's going to be May. And it's nice to see the Jedi in action again, right? And when I was pointing out, me and Tim were talking too, and it's like they're still using the color scheme of blue, green, and yellow. Back when they all had roles, like it was like the Guardians were blue, the Sentries were yellow. So it's like it's cool that like if they're sticking to like traditional Jedi roles. Now I forget if we see Yoda in the trailer, but he would have to be in this show, right? He's clearly over 100, and he'd be still a master at this point.
He'd be that old. I like the idea of, like, when I was watching the show, is it doesn't seem like the Jedi are, like, too political. This is before they get into politics and stuff, and they're kind of like, we're an order. Yeah. Essentially what an order is supposed to be. We're not influencing anyone else. Someone's influencing us. We have our beliefs, and we kind of try to keep right from wrong. We're not into this whole political with the council and all this stuff.
Yeah. It's more like do good for good's sake. But one of the things I want to point out is where I think what this show needs, at least for me, to succeed, is we need some serious death scenes. This is a show. This is a dark side show. This isn't Obi-Wan, right? This is a dark side show. I want to see assassinations. I want to see excellent monologues before they jab someone in, and I want to see it. I want to see more scenes of some heads cutting off. I think you have to do that. You can't make this show nice, right? If you're making a dark side show, make it dark. I think it needs to dive heavily into the dark side lore. We got to get to a point where, why is there a rule of two? Why is the dark side? Why are there fallen Jedi and maybe Inquisitors? I don't think that would have been a thing yet. But like, where do the Sith come from? If you're rising up and you're finding out about Sith lore, then you better explain it to me. Because not a lot of people, I mean, we know stuff. We dive into comics and books and things like that. But the average Joe just knows, oh, the dark side. But it's like, yeah, but the Sith is a religious kind of, understanding. It's not just the dark side. There are dark side users, but the Sith like believes in something. And I need you to dive into Darth Bane and the rule of two. And I know you don't want to see a Palpatine, but you've got to at least show me a Plagueis, because I think Plagueis...
No, that's fine, because
Plagueis was like an immortal, right? He could avoid death. So show me who the Emperor is, or show me who the big bad is, and you better make him awesome, dude. Because Snoke, whatever his name was a waste of my time. And Kylo Ren, at the end of the day, as cool as he was in The Force Awakens, the
only thing I liked about him is just his saber is badass.
Yeah, so that's what I think the show needs, and here's why I think it won't do it. First of all, it's Disney Star Wars. Disney Star Wars has not made anything good, Andor aside, Mandalorian Season 1 and 2 maybe aside.
Yeah, because even Boba Fett fell.
Disney Star Wars sucks. Plain and simple. Obi-Wan was a waste of my motherfucking time. And it's sad when there's I forget the guy's name, there's an editor out there who redid those episodes and made it into a movie, and it's pretty good when you trim the fat and all that other stuff. So, first of all, it's just who's making it. It's Disney Star Wars. The other thing is that we've got to get past 8-episode shows. I don't know why or when that became the norm, but it's ridiculous unless you're like The Last of Us and your shows are 50 minutes. Your shows are 60 minutes. You have a couple that run over an hour. Where Star Wars and Disney are 8 episodes that are maybe 30 minutes, and I wanted to point this out because I believe that chick's name is Headland. Is that who that you showed me? The creator? Yeah. And she goes, in an interview with Collider, Headland confirmed that the Acolyte's episodes would be similar in length to previous live-action Star Wars series on Disney+. About 30 minutes. Yeah, I would say some of them are a little bit longer, like the finale. I think it's 40 minutes. She said, you're the fucking creator. Do you not know how long your episodes are? And the biggest thing that's, okay, 30 minutes, there's 7 minutes of credits. You can't be telling, and again, when I want lore, and I want story, and I want depth, you're not telling me that in 24 minutes in over 8 episodes. And that's my disappointment. This is Star Wars. This is your bread and butter. Everyone's complaining how dog shit you've been making it. Make 8-hour-long episodes. And I don't know what's so fucking hard about that. Because I get so heated thinking about this. Like, what are you doing? Like, this sounds really cool on paper. So I'm going to get a handful of minutes for you to explain to me what happened 100 years ago with the dark side and the fall of the Jedi?
Either that or give me like 15 30-minute episodes, something.
Or I don't know. It's just that's the way I see it, and it really grinds my gears. But there's not too much to say. Again, the trailer just dropped, so once more comes out, maybe we can see a little bit more of what's going to happen, who's going to be happening. But the biggest things that I'm already telling you is why it's going to suck or not be up to my standards is Disney's making it, and it's 8 24-minute episodes.
I'm going to stay hopeful.
I'll stay hopeful, but I mean, I just know what's going to happen. So, guys, that is the end of episode 189. Leave down your guys' thoughts below of what you think of everything we talked about. Join us next week for episode 190. So, until next time, guys, my name is Craig Perales. This is Mandrew Montemare. Cheers.
See you guys out there.
You should have said, may the force be with you. I was thinking it right when I was drinking it. Oh.